Okay, picture this. Chris Voss. We're talking 2 decades, FBI's top hostage guy. Deals with bank robbers, terrorists, you name it.
Yeah, serious stuff.
Then, bam, he's in this mock negotiation against Harvard law professors.
Whoa, talk about a change of pace.
Right. A fake $1,000,000, his son's life supposedly on the line. But here's the kicker. The FBI stuff. The techniques he used in life-or-death situation.
Did they work? Against academics?
Totally. They worked brilliantly, even in that, super rational setting.
That's fascinating right there, isn't it? The contrast. Real-world grit versus, pure intellect. Makes you think.
Are the basics the same? Kidnapper, CEO?
Okay.
Is it all just negotiation?
Exactly.
And that's what we're really getting into today on the deep dive. We cut through the clutter, give you the essentials fast. You're the learner, right? Curious, busy, want to get smart without drowning in detail.
Uh-huh.
So our mission today, pull out the real, usable gems from Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference.
Great book.
Yeah, think of this as your practical guide. Stuff you can use buying a car, deciding on pizza, whatever. And we're drawing straight from Voss's own stories, his own strategies.
And if you think about it, Voss's whole journey kind of highlights this big shift.
Yeah.
A real evolution in understanding negotiation.
Okay, yeah. How so?
Well, the old school way was all logic, right? Facts. Reason. Assume everyone's rational, and you'll find that perfect win-win.
Makes sense on paper.
But Voss, dealing with people totally overwhelmed by emotion, he saw that was, incomplete. There was a huge piece missing.
Right. So let's dig into that shift. Voss himself, he says, as I'd soon discover in the storied halls of Harvard, our techniques make great sense intellectually, and they worked everywhere.
Everywhere.
That's the bit that gets me.
Yeah, it's huge. Because his world, pure logic, often just failed.
Yeah.
Spectacularly sometimes. You can't reason with panic using a spreadsheet.
Definitely not.
And this really bumps up against even the smart, rational approaches, like the whole getting to yes idea, finding common ground, knowing your alternatives, your BTNA.
Useful stuff, sure.
Absolutely useful. But Voss, and he leans on guys like Daniel Kahneman here, the cognitive bias research.
Yeah. Prospect theory, loss aversion, all that.
Exactly. He saw how those emotional biases, the framing effect, how you present things, our fear of losing, they weren't just side issues. They were often driving the whole negotiation.
So, okay, if pure logic isn't the answer, what was the FBI's secret sauce?
It was working with the emotions, not ignoring them. And that brings us to the absolute core of his method, tactical empathy.
Tactical empathy.
Yeah, and he defines it really clearly. He says, the whole concept, which you'll learn is the centerpiece of this book, is called tactical empathy. This is listening as a martial art, balancing the subtle behaviors of emotional intelligence and the assertive skills of influence to gain access to the mind of another person.
Listening as a martial art. I like that.
Me too. And he adds, contrary to popular opinion, listening is not a passive activity. It is the most active thing you can do. It just flips the script on listening, doesn't it?
It really does. It's not just waiting politely for your turn.
Not at all. It's actively digging in, trying to grasp their feelings, their viewpoints.
So for everyone listening, the learner, what's the first step? Actionable insight number 1, right?
Yes, simply start seeing listening differently. In your everyday chats, try to make it an active skill. Really focus on what they might be feeling behind the words.
Okay, active listening. Got it.
In building right on that, on tactical empathy, Voss gives us some really concrete tools. It's not just about feeling empathy. It's about showing it, using specific techniques to get more info.
Right. And the first one he brings up is mirroring, which sounds kind of simple.
It does. And you might think, okay, copy their posture, right? And Voss mentions that isopraxism, the subtle physical mirroring. But mostly, he means verbally mirroring, repeating their words back.
Just repeating.
Yeah, the last few words, usually. He says, mirroring is the art of insinuating similarity, which facilitates bonding. Use mirrors to encourage the other side to empathize and bond with you. Keep people talking, buy your side time to regroup, and encourage your counterparts to reveal their strategy.
Wow. So it builds connection, keeps them talking, just by repeating a few words.
Pretty much. It shows you're tuned in, prompts them to explain more.
He tells that story, right? The bank robbery back in '93.
Yeah, the van.
The robber keeps mentioning a van, and Voss just mirrors like, we chased your driver away, with that questioning tone.
And boom, unlocks this whole thing about a getaway driver they didn't even know about.
It seems almost too easy.
I know, but that's its power. Think about using it day to day. Voss had this student, right? Boss wants hard copies of everything digital, like piles of paper.
Ugh, Nightmare.
Totally. Instead of arguing, the student just mirrors, kind of inquisitively, 2 copies. And the
Yeah.
boss paused, thought about it, and basically talked himself out of it. Found a better way. It gets people to self-correct without feeling attacked.
Okay, that's clever. So mirroring. What else is in that active listening toolbox?
The late-night FM DJ voice.
Uh-huh. Okay, explain that one.
Think smooth, calm, reassuring. That deep, slow, hypnotic radio voice. Voss apparently used this during that Chris Voss bank robbery. Very tense situation.
To calm things down.
Exactly.
Mm.
It projects calmness, control. It signals you're reasonable, you're listening, you're not a threat.
Mm-hmm.
Voss says your tone can literally shift someone's emotional state.
From agitated to, okay, I can talk to this person.
Precisely. It helps build that trust.
Makes sense. And there was one more. Oh, silence.
Yes. The power of the pause. Not awkward silence, but like strategic silence. After you mirror someone or ask a question, just wait.
Let him fill it.
Uh-huh. People often feel compelled to fill the silence, and when they do, they might just reveal more than they planned.
You put the pressure on them gently.
Right. That discomfort works for you, the listener. You gain insight.
Okay, so actionable insight number 2 then. Try mirroring. Today, low stakes conversation. Repeat the last few words, inquisitive tone, see what happens.
Yeah, just experiment. You might be surprised.
Cool. So we've got active listening down, but tactical empathy is more, right?
It is. It's not just understanding feelings, it's actually articulating them, naming them. Which brings us to labeling.
Labeling emotions. Okay.
Yeah, so instead of saying, I get that you're angry, you'd say something like, it sounds like you're angry, or it seems like you feel.
You're stating it as an observation, not a fact about them.
Exactly. Voss uses that intense Harlem apartment standoff as an example. They didn't know for sure, but they labeled what seemed likely. Stuff like,
It looks like you don't want to come out. It seems like you worry that if you open the door, we'll come in with guns blazing. It looks like you don't want to go back to jail.
right. And the amazing thing, psychologically, Voss points to research, brain scans even, showing that just naming an emotion helps calm the brain's fear center. It reduces the intensity.
Like putting a name to the monster makes it less scary.
Kinda, yeah. It validates the feeling without necessarily agreeing with the reason behind it. But Voss is clear, labeling is a tactic, not a strategy. How you use labeling will go a long way in determining your success. Deployed well, it's how we identify and then slowly alter the inner voices of our counterpart's consciousness to something more collaborative and trusting.
So it's a tool, not the whole game plan. Use it wisely.
Precisely. And a really smart way to use it is what he calls an accusation audit.
Accusation audit. Sounds serious.
It's basically listing out loud all the negative things you think the other person might be thinking or feeling about you before they say them.
Get ahead of it. Disarm them.
Exactly. He tells that story about Anna dealing with this really ticked-off contractor.
Right, yeah.
She started by saying things like, it probably seems like we're being difficult. It probably feels like we've messed you around, just laying out all their potential complaints.
And it worked.
Yeah, totally diffused the anger, cleared the air so they could actually talk about the problem.
Okay, that's powerful. So actionable insight number 3. When you sense negativity or resistance, try labeling it. It seems like you might be frustrated with this, or sounds like you have some concerns.
See if just acknowledging it shifts the dynamic.
Okay, labeling. Got it. Now, this next one feels kind of backwards. We're always told get to yes, right?
Right, that's the goal.
But Voss says aim for no.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it definitely sounds wrong at first, doesn't it? But his logic is really compelling. He says, saying no gives the speaker the feeling of safety, security, and control.
Okay. How?
Think about it. When someone's pushing you hard for a yes, you feel backed into a corner, defensive.
Yeah, totally.
But saying no, that feels empowering. You're in control. You've drawn a line.
Right.
So Voss says, ask questions designed to get a no answer early on.
Right.
Like, is now a bad time to talk? Or is it ridiculous to suggest? It lets them say no easily, feel secure, and ironically, that makes them more open to actually listening.
Huh. So no isn't rejection, it's protection for them.
Yeah, and it shows they're engaged. Voss says, good negotiators welcome, even invite a solid no to start as a sign that the other party is engaged and thinking. A no means they're not just nodding along.
Okay. And he had that email trick too, right?
Oh yeah, the have you given up on this project email? Brilliant.
Why does that work?
Because nobody wants to admit they've given up.
Ah.
It triggers that loss aversion thing. They almost have to reply, no, of course not. And just like that, the conversation's restarted.
Sneaky. but effective.
Hmm.
Okay, actionable insight number 4. Try starting a conversation, maybe asking for something, with a question that lets them comfortably say no.
Yeah. Is it a bad idea to see if it lowers their guard?
Interesting. Okay, moving from no, Voss also talks about the difference between hearing "you're right" and "that's right." Why does that
Oh,
matter?
it's a huge distinction.
Yeah.
Huge. You're right, can just be lip service. Someone trying to appease you, get you off their back.
Yeah, like, you're right, sure, but they don't really mean it.
Exactly. But that's right. That's different. That's the golden phrase. Voss says, the moment you've convinced someone that you truly understand her dreams and feelings, mental and behavioral change becomes possible. That's right. Means they feel completely heard and understood on a deep level.
It's validation.
Total validation. He tells that story about his son, Brandon, the football player.
Right, who kept saying, "You're right, coach," but didn't change.
Yeah. He agreed verbally, but his actions didn't follow. It wasn't until the coaches dug deeper, understood his real motivation, the pride in making big hits, and Brandon felt truly understood, got to that "that's right" moment, then they could actually influence his technique.
So you need that deep click of understanding.
Absolutely. There's another great story. The student negotiating with his old boss in Korea.
Uh-huh.
He just kept summarizing the boss's situation, his pressures, his needs patiently until the boss finally went, "That's right," about leading an ally back home. And that revealed the real issue, the hidden motivation, and paved the way for the student to get the job.
Wow, so it unlocks the real reasons.
It really can. So actionable insight number 5. In your next really important conversation, don't just listen. Summarize. Summarize their view, their feelings, their needs, until you hear those magic words. That's right.
That's the signal you've connected.
That's the signal. Then you can move forward together.
Okay, so once you have that "that's right" connection, how do you steer things without sounding, demanding?
Now we get to calibrated questions. This is about creating the illusion of control for the other side.
Illusion of control. How does that work?
You use open-ended what and how questions. These questions gently guide their thinking. Make them generate solutions so they feel like they're the ones figuring things out.
So you're not telling them what to do.
Right. You're asking things that lead them there. Voss gives the example of a doctor with an unhappy patient threatening to leave.
Instead of arguing.
Instead of arguing, the doctor asks, "What would a good outcome look like for you here?" It shifts the focus, makes the patient think constructively about solutions, and puts them in the driver's seat, apparently.
And Voss warns against why questions, right?
Big time. Why often sounds accusatory, puts people on the defensive, even if you don't mean it to. Why did you do that? Feels very different from what were you hoping to achieve.
Okay. But what and how are good? Like his favorite, "How am I supposed to do that?"
Yes.
Yeah.
That one's brilliant. It sounds deferential, like you need their help, but it forces them to consider your position and potentially adjust their request or help find a solution. It encourages collaboration.
He had that story too, the consultant with the tough CEO.
Yeah, using those no-oriented emails combined with calibrated questions. It's about framing. Voss says, the secret to gaining the upper hand is giving the other side the illusion of control. Calibrated questions make your counterpart feel like they're in charge, but it's really you who are framing the conversation.
They don't even realize they're being guided.
Not if you do it well. So, actionable insight number 6. Practice asking, how am I supposed to do that? Not aggressively, but genuinely, like you're asking for help. See how it shifts the dynamic towards problem solving.
Okay, asking how. Got it. Now, eventually, a lot of negotiations involve money, bargaining.
Yep, the numbers game. And Voss has a specific system for this too, the Ackerman system.
Ackerman. Sounds like a Bond villain move.
Maybe. It's quite structured. It's a process for making offers designed to make the other side feel like they're really squeezing concessions out of you.
Okay, how does it work?
You start with an anchor price, your first offer that's way lower than your actual target, like maybe 65% of what you're ultimately willing to pay.
Wow, that low. Seems aggressive.
It is. Then you make gradual increases, hitting maybe 85% and then 95%, and finally your actual target, 100%. But crucially, you use very specific non-round numbers like $4,782 instead of $5,000.
Why the weird numbers?
It makes it sound like you've calculated it carefully, like you're at your absolute limit. And at the very end, when you make your final offer, you throw in some small, non-monetary item, like asking them to throw in the floor mats if you're buying a car.
To make it seem like you're squeezing out every last drop?
Exactly. It signals you're truly tapped out. The example he uses, buying that red Toyota 4Runner,
Yeah.
he walks through using this method. Started low, absorbed the pushback, made those calculated increases, showed reluctance. It's about the performance as much as the numbers. And being ready to walk away.
That preparation seems key.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Voss also stresses figuring out your counterpart's style.
Uh-huh.
Are they an analyst, slow, methodical, and accommodator, relationship-focused? Or assertive, time-focused, blunt? Knowing that helps you tailor your Ackerman approach.
Because one size doesn't fit all.
Definitely not. And his quote here is so important. When the pressure is on, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your highest level of preparation.
That's good. You got to do the homework.
You really do.
Yeah.
Know your target, know your walk away, have your Ackerman plan ready.
Okay, actionable insight number 7. If you're heading into a price negotiation, think about using the Ackerman model. Anchor low, increase incrementally with precise numbers, and ask for something small and non-monetary at the end.
It gives you a roadmap, a structure.
Makes sense. Okay, almost there. The last big concept, black swans.
Yes. The unknown unknowns.
The things you don't even know you don't know, the game changers.
Exactly. Those hidden pieces of information that, if uncovered, can completely reshape the entire negotiation. He uses that really intense example of the Rochester Bank hostage situation.
Where the guy had already killed people.
Yeah, that was the black swan. Discovering that fact fundamentally changed everything. The risks, the strategy, everything. It wasn't just a bank robbery anymore.
So how do you find these things if you don't know they exist?
Well, Voss talks about understanding leverage, positive, what you can give them, negative, how you can hurt them, and normative, using their own rules or values. Thinking about these helps you probe.
And being incredibly curious.
Relentlessly curious, asking those open-ended questions, listening intently. He tells that amazing story about Gary Nosner negotiating with Watson, the farmer on the Washington Monument.
The tobacco farmer.
Yeah. It wasn't about logic or money. Nosner had to dig deep to understand Watson's religion, as Voss calls it, his worldview, what truly mattered to him, which was his deep connection to his family farm. Understanding that Black Swan was the key to resolving the standoff peacefully.
Finding what really drives them beneath the surface demands.
Exactly. Because as Voss says, what we don't know can kill us or our deals. But uncovering it can totally change the course and bring us unexpected success. It's about looking for the hidden currents.
So, actionable insight number 8, the last one. Actively look beyond the obvious. Ask yourself what unspoken needs, beliefs, or pressures might be motivating this person. Dig deeper with open questions and really listen.
Be a detective for those hidden truths.
Okay. Wow. That was a lot, but incredibly useful stuff.
Yeah. Never Split the Difference is packed with actionable strategies. If we just quickly recap the big takeaways.
Good idea. So first, tactical empathy. That's the foundation. Listening as a martial art.
Second, master those active listening tools, mirroring and labeling. Show you understand. Diffuse the negative vibes.
Third, embrace the no. Don't fear it. Invite it, even. It starts the real conversation.
Fourth, aim for, that's right, that deep confirmation of understanding, not just a polite, you're right.
Fifth, use calibrated questions. Those what's and how questions to guide things while giving them the illusion of control.
Sixth, bargain smart. Think about anchoring. Think about the Ackerman system as a potential framework. Prepare.
Seventh. Wait, was Ackerman 6th or 7th?
Let's see. Empathy, listening. No.
Yeah.
Sorry, calibrated questions. Ackerman was 6th.
Right. Okay, so 7th. Always hunt for those black swans. Understand their world, their hidden drivers.
Got it. And the crucial thing is, this isn't just for hostage negotiators or big shot CEOs.
No way. This is everyday life stuff. Your partner, your kids, your boss, the person at the DMV.
Exactly. Negotiation is just navigating human interaction effectively.
So, final thought for everyone listening, our learners, pick one, just one of these techniques, try it out in the next day, see what happens.
Yeah, run a little experiment.
Because what Chris Voss really shows us is that understanding people, understanding psychology, that's the real key. Getting what you need, but doing it in a way that's smart, aware, and leaves people feeling understood.
Well said. It's about negotiating smarter, not harder.